In this video, I'm going to share with you the number one mistake that I see co-founders making that destroys their partnership. And I'm going to share with you my framework of the 3 pillars of a great co-founder relationship, which includes what to align on, how to repair conflict and restore broken trust, and also how to deepen your relationship in general. And finally, I'm going to give you my healthy co-founder operating system so that you can set you and your co-founder up for success for a long-term, productive, trusting partnership. My name is Josh Levine, and I'm an executive coach that coaches founders of startups and the investors who back them. And I specialize in the co-founder relationship, especially for early stage companies. So kicking off here, I want to talk about the co-founder relationship as a marriage. This is an analogy that I see a lot of co-founders using. And a lot of times they say it's like we're married in a joking, often uncomfortable way. But I think it's a really useful analogy. And so I want to press into that a little bit and explore it with you. Here's how it's like a marriage. You are with your co-founder, dumping your dreams and their dreams into the same container. You're holding hands and jumping to build a joint endeavor. And the success or failure of it rests on joint shoulders. You're going to spend a lot of time and energy. You're going to make a lot of sacrifices. You're investing your identity and sense of self into this business as the founder of this business. There are huge stakes for each of you in terms of whether or not this is successful. You will succeed or fail together. You better be rowing in the same direction because the success or failure rests on joint shoulders. And you have to navigate, just like a marriage, huge differences in personality. A huge one is differences in decision-making style. For example, one of you likes to decide quickly, move fast, break things. Another of you is more methodical. It's kind of a classic CEO, CTO, or CEO, COO tension is the way you make decisions together. You're also navigating different needs for closeness. This is a really big and important one that I don't see co-founders talking about very much, but it's a huge thing. A huge source of conflict I see is that one of you likes to talk and the other likes to work in privacy. And so what do you do with that? What are your standards for communication? How often are you talking? How much time are you going to give each other alone to get the work done, etc. And if you're lucky and you make it that far, maybe you're already there, but you will hire employees and you will be parents of a culture. And the function or dysfunction of your co-founder relationship will bleed into the culture. It will have an impact on your employees, just like the health or dysfunction of a relationship between parents affects their kids. So a lot of similarities. The co-founder dynamic as a marriage is because of a huge elephant in the room that I would like to name, which is that typically in Western, traditional, historic business culture, we do not talk about our feelings. We don't talk about them because being professional means being not emotional. This is residue from a long tradition of checking your emotions at the door and getting shit done. That's what a good employee and professional is. And so when it comes to the co-founder dynamic and their emotional or relational ruptures and problems, we don't know what to do with them. We don't know how to work through them because not only is the business culture particularly blind to this, but also I think our culture at large is relationally blind. A lot of us grow up in families that handled conflict very well, and so we don't have the skills. They weren't taught. So it's not your fault exactly, but it is your problem because unskillfulness with relational dynamics and emotional dynamics is affecting your business partnership and it's affecting your bottom line. Another thing that I see with kind of cultural residue is that therapy and emotional processing carries a stigma. You're in therapy? Oh, that's so good for you. What's wrong with you? You might not say it out loud, but a lot of people are still thinking that, even in modern culture. Even in modern culture, I see that. One of the things that I see a lot is that as an executive coach that is focused a lot on the intra-psychic, meaning inside your own mental world dimension of high performance, is that when I get invited to speak to founders, for example, let's say a venture capital firm is a lot of venture firms have heads of platform where they are creating programming for founders, and they have, let's say, 20 to 30 speakers per year that come in and give presentations to their founders. Of those 20 to 30 presentations, I am often the only one This is amazing. I'm often the only one, maybe one other person, but I'm often the only one that's speaking about matters of the inner world, matters of emotions and relationships and things like that. Everyone else is talking about market dynamics and sales and product market fit and organizational structure and fundraising and things like that, the operational reality of building a business. But there is another reality. There is there's the outer world and there's the inner world. And we ignore the inner world at our peril. Anyway, one other thing in modern culture is that there's this question, how much of myself should I bring to work? I think that in modern culture, there's a lot more energy around and enthusiasm around, we want to build a culture where you can bring your whole self to work. I think that's great. It's great for everybody. However, there's still, I think, is a nuance, a remaining question. How much of yourself do you bring to work? What's appropriate? And how mature is yourself? Put it that way. How mature is yourself? Is yourself the type of self that spills your emotions everywhere and never gets anything done and gets defensive when you get called out on your bullshit? Is that yourself? Okay, well, if that's yourself, you could bring it to work, but it's not gonna work. And so, how much of yourself do you bring to work, and what place do emotions have at work, and how do you cultivate a mature self that can operate in a work context while still feeling authentic? These are really important questions, and they're not paid enough attention, in my view. So, as we wade into this conversation, I want to reassure the more traditional, those of you who are watching this presentation, that we're not talking about emotions and relational dynamics here just for the fun of it, just for the sake of it, just to be indulgent about our inner world. We understand that as co-founders, you have a goal. You're trying to build a business together. And so my sensibility the spirit I'm bringing into this presentation is that I would like to look at the relational mechanics and the emotional mechanics that will set you up for success, the highest possible chance of success in your business partnership. That's my lens. And so in that spirit, I would like to compare two different types of relationship. Relationship A holds each other accountable to shared values. They call each other out on their bullshit. They call each other out when they're not performing well. They call each other out when they're falling behind on shared values. They experience feedback as support, and they discuss their feelings and challenges openly. They talk about their doubts, their fears. I'm afraid that this board meeting isn't going to go well, and that this investor isn't going to like us. Let's talk about it. They talk about that stuff. That's relationship A. Relationship B avoids confrontation to preserve harmony. They walk on eggshells around each other. They experience feedback as threatening. They work in silos where if I'm the CTO, my role is to handle engineering, and I do not let anybody step on my turf and tell me how to do my job. No, sir. Not allowed. You operate over there in your department, and I'm over here in my department, and I don't have opinions about your shit. You don't have opinions about my shit. That's the contract implicitly we make with each other. But when I say threatening, experience feedback as threatening to the ego or to my sense of power or hierarchy. And relationship B deals with feelings and challenges privately. If I'm frustrated with you, or if my feelings get hurt, then I just handle it on my own. I don't handle it relationally. So those are two types of relationships, and I'm painting extremes here, of course, but just to make the point, I won't hide my opinion. I believe that relationship A has an enormous advantage over relationship B for the goal of building a business. Why? Because building a business is a long-term marathon, hard in the trenches pursuit, and relationship A has more fun, is more joyful, is more able to focus on the goals. That's actually interesting. People think that if we're talking about feelings, then we're wasting time and we're not working on the business stuff. Oh my God, that's like such a cognitive error. It's such a mistake that people make, and it's a relic of our culture. And if you're coming into this presentation with that point of view, I humbly submit that you are wrong. I'd love to talk to you more about that. Having relational conversations is so important and actually accelerates your productivity. And not talking about the relationship, not dealing with the relational texture and dynamics, and especially when there are things that are hard in the relationship, not talking about that destroys your productivity in ways that you're not aware of if you're not paying attention to it. Relationship A is more able to have heated, productive debates about the direction of the business. Are we focused on the right things? Are we prioritizing correctly? Are you performing well? Am I performing well? When two partners are able to call each other out and they welcome that feedback, they've given each other permission to give each other that feedback. Just think about how much better that is. That's teamwork. That's teamwork. I could go on, but just to paint this. So relationship A is better than relationship B, and it's more conducive to set you up for the highest chance of success in your venture. How do you do relationship A and not relationship B? Oh, one other thing I want to say here is sometimes I like to call relationship B an operationship. It's an operationship. You're operating side by side. You're accomplishing tasks together, but you're not having a relationship. It's not really a relationship. It's an operationship. So how do you have a relationship, not just an operationship? Well, one of the things that I like to stress, and this is a huge aha moment for my co-founders when I talk about this, is the difference between operational trust and relational trust. Two different kinds of trust. Trust is a really big word in obviously co-founder dynamics and teamwork and all that kind of stuff, but it's often misunderstood, and people usually come into the conversation thinking about trust in operational terms. And so I talked about the number one mistake I see co-founders make. I'm actually going to give you two. There's a bonus one, but this is the cognitive error I see co-founders making. The most common cognitive mistake I see co-founders making is thinking of trust in only operational terms. Operational trust is I trust that your skills are adequate to your tasks. I trust that you will do your job well. You're going to do a good job on time. I trust you. Operational trust. Most of the times when co-founders meet each other, and they vet each other, and they're, for example, co-founder dating, and they're picking a co-founder, they're thinking in operational terms. Are you going to do your job well? If I'm a CEO looking for a CTO, I want to make sure that you are competent. Of course, that's incredibly important. I'm not saying it's not important. It's essential. You have to have operational trust with your co-founder. Great. But what often is missing in co-founder relationships is the relational piece, relational trust. Relational trust is the following. I trust you with my vulnerability. I trust that I can share my mistakes with you and you won't hold it against me. I trust that I can share my doubts and fears with you and we can talk through them and you won't recoil. I trust that you are a person that I can invite into my inner world and that you'll respect it. I trust that our relationship can survive tension. I trust that we can have productive conflict. That if I'm frustrated with you about something, I can say it and we can work through it and we won't get stuck. Relational trust also means I give you permission to give me tough feedback. Huge, huge one. People think that it should just be a given, that of course we should be able to give each other tough feedback, but without relational trust, it's hard. It's hard. It's like there's like a force field. If I don't trust, here's the other piece of relational trust. I trust that you care about me as a person. If I don't trust that you care about me as a person, it's very hard for me to receive cold feedback. But relational trust is what allows you to cast a cool eye on someone's performance while also holding them in warm regard. Just take that sentence in. If I trust you relationally, then I trust you to know me, love me, and respect me while also giving me hard feedback about my performance. I trust that when you give me feedback about my performance or if I'm not prioritizing correctly, that you're doing it out of a sense of goodwill. That's relational trust. Really important. Really important. So, huge distinction, operational trust versus relational trust. And I recommend that you start thinking about trust in relational terms. It's a huge blind spot. Again, not your fault, part of our culture, but I'm inviting you into this point of view. So I want to talk about the three pillars of a great co-founder relationship. And I see them as shared vision, number one, conflict resolution, number two, and friendship, pillar number three. I got this straight from the Gottman Institute, by the way. The Gottmans are legendary couples counselors who have done research in marriage, and they're able to, for example, predict divorce based on 5-minute sound clips of couples talking to each other. It's really amazing what they've done. And they have three pillars of a great marriage, which I've adapted to a co-founder relationship. So credit where credit is due. Pillar number one of a co-founder relationship, a great co-founder relationship. Oh, actually, you know what? I want to say one thing. Shared vision, conflict resolution, friendship. The term friendship, I think, is something that maybe you're watching this video and you're like skeptical about, do I need to actually be friends with my co-founder? You technically don't. You can build a successful business, and many co-founders have, without really being friends. But I'm talking about the ideal state. I want you to have a great co-founder relationship. I don't want you to have a stressful, miserable co-founder relationship where you're operating side by side. I don't want you to have an operationship. I want you to have a great relationship. You've chosen entrepreneurship with this person as your domain of self-actualization in this lifetime. And I want it to be great for you. I want it to be fun, joyful, productive, powerful. And I want it to be a domain where you both grow as people, not just have the gratification of a great exit. So I'm talking about great co-founder relationship. That's great co-founder relationship. That's why I include friendship. All right, pillar number one, shared vision. There's a lot of things that co-founders need to align on. When co-founders are having conflict, a lot of times it's about not having a shared vision about certain key aspects of the business. And I want to name a number of them for you here. The first one is, I call it desired end state. What outcome do you want? Are you looking for a huge exit? What does huge mean? Are you looking for a $200 million exit? Are you looking for a $2 billion exit? 2 million? Either's great. What about, do you not care about the exit? Are you just looking for impact? Are you looking to make the world a better place? Okay, great. Are you looking to retain control of the business? Are you looking to give it all away? Do you want to just build a business and exit, or do you want to build this for the long term? Are you building a lifestyle business? All of this is great. All of this is great. It doesn't matter. There's no right answer to this question. It just matters that you know what your desired end state, desired outcome is, and that you align on it. It's amazing how many co-founders I meet that have not had this conversation. Of course, we're just building a business. Building a business. That's a really vague term. What do you want, actually? What do you actually want? Second thing is how much you'll sacrifice. This is huge. This is another major point of contention I see with co-founders. One co-founder is 25 years old and is working 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the other co-founder is 35 years old and already is married with 2 kids and can only work 9 to 5. 5 days a week. Okay, that can be fine as long as you guys are aware of the degree of sacrifice and you're talking about compensation and right-sizing your expectations about what the other is going to put in. And so if you're the 25-year-old co-founder and you're frustrated because your other co-founder isn't putting in as much as you are, that was something you could have known up front. So this is a conversation you need to have. How much do you want to sacrifice? Do you want a 9 to 5 business? Do you want a 7 days a week business? Do you want to burn the candle at both ends and crush it for 3 years and then have a huge exit? Or do you want to take it a little more slow? Again, anything is fine. Just know what you want. Resentment builds up when you have different expectations for how much the other person is going to sacrifice relative to you. That's a recipe for contention. And so just put it on the table, get it explicit, come to an agreement about this. And the agreement can change over time. That's also fine, but get aligned. Division of roles and responsibilities. Of course, this is a huge one. If I'm the CEO and you're the CTO, what does that actually mean? Who has decision control power over what domain? Who has to defer to the other? And on that note, how are you going to make decisions? So division of roles, responsibilities, how you make decisions. There's a little overlapping there, but it's like, who owns what in the business? Things need to get done. Who's going to do it, and who owns the outcome? And who is going to make decisions in what domain? What's the strategic direction of the business? How are you going to debate that out? Are you going to choose path A or path B for product market fit, et cetera? What's your compensation philosophy? It becomes really important when you start hiring employees, just to have a conversation about, how do you want to compensate people? What are your standards of performance? Really align on this. This is a big one. You need to have aligned, shared standards of performance in order to give each other feedback. Because if you've never had an explicit conversation about this, and one of you submits work that is under your kind of performance standard or standard of quality, but you haven't aligned on what quality actually means, that's a tough conversation. You have to have the alignment conversation first before you can hold someone accountable to the bar. Hiring and firing decisions. Who do you want to work with? Management philosophy. Conduct as leaders. Degree of formality. This one I like to just touch on for a second. Like, how casual are you going to be? Are you showing up in shorts and a t-shirt on investor calls? Do you wear a suit? Are you comfortable with what kind of grammar are you using in your written communications? Is everything lowercase with no punctuation, etc.? Brand image. Is it really important to one of you that you have a very specific shade of green for the logo, or whatever? Again, just a conversation to align on. How and when you communicate. Are you using Slack? Are you using text? Are you using phone calls? Are you using Zoom? What channel is appropriate for what communication? Early on in a startup, you might not need to have this conversation explicitly because you can be kind of loose with it. But as you start to grow your team, you need to have this conversation, because very loose ways of communicating don't scale. You need to have a structure of communication in order to scale. What kinds of things are appropriate to bring up in what context? What meetings are for what? And what's your rhythm, like your weekly rhythm for how you resolve things like that? How do you talk to customers? How do you show up in sales calls? What kinds of things are you allowed and willing to say to customers and not? How do you talk to investors? And there's more. There's more things to align on with your co-founder, but these are just kind of the big ones, and these are some of the ones that I've seen that produce a lot of conflict. The question is, when do you have the conversation about these things with your co-founder? Because if you talk about all this stuff way up front, then you're not getting anything done. So there is a balance about having alignment conversations and then actually doing the work. I take a distinction from, there's a great book called The E-Myth Revisited that makes the distinction between working on the business versus working in the business. Working in the business is like doing sales calls, building the product, etc. Working on the business is making decisions about the business itself. Having conversations to align on how you're going to do stuff like this, that's working on the business. And you need to have the right balance between working on the business versus in the business. I see where I see struggles with co-founders is there's too much in one direction or the other. So in order to navigate these agreements, I want to make a distinction between having implicit agreements versus explicit agreements. An implicit agreement is an unspoken assumption that you're on the same page. That usually doesn't go well. An explicit agreement is a formal agreement that you have discussed and written down about how you're going to operate in a given area. We, as human beings, operate with an enormous number of unspoken implicit assumptions. We carry our cultural assumptions. We carry, whenever we start a business, we think, of course, the way you start a business is X, Y, Z. The way you do it. Of course, the way you talk to customers is ABC. Of course. But then you're on a call with your co-founder, and you think that every time you're on a customer call, you have to present the image of perfection, and they're telling their customer, I don't know the answer to your questions. We need to do more research. They're apologizing about the product. And you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, I can't believe my co-founder is saying this to a customer. And there's a rupture in your relationship, of course. And so you thought, this is the thing, you had an implicit agreement. You thought you guys were on the same page. until you realize that you're not, and something breaks. And so when something breaks, you need to move from having an implicit agreement to having an explicit agreement, and that's where a conversation comes to align on something. So there's kind of two ways to do it. You can do the prophylactic, preventative, have the explicit conversation to align on things beforehand, or when something breaks, you need to have the explicit agreement conversation. And so just notice when an implicit agreement got exposed and is broken, and when you need to move into a conversation to create an explicit agreement. Now, moving into that conversation often creates conflict, or is a conflict. And so that's where we come to pillar number 2, conflict resolution. As co-founders, you need to have a way to resolve conflict. And most co-founder relationships die because they don't have a strong, healthy process for resolving conflicts. Every co-founder relationship that dies, this is true of. You don't have this process. And so I want to give you a crash course on how to do this. I could do a 6-hour program on conflict resolution, but I'm going to give you a 10-minute version here. The cycle of rupture and repair. Every relationship, no matter what domain of life you're in, a marriage, a parent-child relationship, a friendship, and certainly a business partnership, goes through cycles of rupture and repair. What that means is you start in a state of harmony, everything's going great, you love each other, and then something happens. Somebody says something stupid on an investor call, and you're frustrated. Something breaks. That's the rupture. Then you have a conversation where you bring up the thing that was frustrating, you work through it, and you repair the relationship, which brings you back to a state of harmony. That's the cycle of rupture and repair. Every relationship has this, every relationship. However, here's where things go wrong. You start in a state of harmony, something happens, there's a rupture, and then instead of having the repair conversation, you bypass it. You enter a state of artificial harmony where there's unspoken tension that hasn't been surfaced. There are more ruptures. You continue to bypass, and you exist in this purgatory of artificial harmony. This is where co-founder relationships go to die. Don't do that. Learn how to have healthy repair. One distinction I want to make is that artificial harmony can look like people aren't bringing things up to each other. They're walking on eggshells, but it can also look like you're constantly bickering, but you're not actually dealing with the deeper problem. And so you stay in a state of constant bickering. So it's not artificial harmony. It's a artificial state of you think you're working through things, but you're not actually getting anywhere. So two different types, two different types of artificial harmony, but they both are places where relationships go to die. So don't do that. Learn how to have a healthy repair conversation and get back to harmony. Really learn it. So how do you do it? I want to bring up, this is kind of like an apocryphal, I call this the toilet paper problem. This is an apocryphal marriage problem where I'm going to just do this in a strictly heteronormative way to keep things conversationally simple. But he likes the toilet paper going over. She likes the toilet paper going under. He installs the toilet paper going over, and she says, "Oh my God, that asshole, he never listens to me." And hint, it's not just about the toilet paper. That's where the fight has located. We think it's about the toilet paper, but it's not actually about the toilet paper. It's about what I just said. It's about the deeper emotional hurt. He didn't listen to me. He's disrespecting me. He's not taking my preferences into account. He's going on autopilot, and I feel lonely in this marriage. That's what's actually going on. Okay, it's not about the toilet paper. And why am I bringing this up? Because there is an analogy with co-founder relationships, and co-founders often get into fights about the Trello board, the customer relationship management tool, the way that the board deck, the pitch deck. But I want to make the point to you that there are always two levels of conflict. There's an operational level, the thing that happened that you're annoyed about, and then there's the emotional relationship level underneath it. Two levels of conflict. This is a law. Always two levels. So I want to give you an example. Here are two co-founders. One of them says, I can't believe our board meeting is tomorrow and you just got me your slides and they're terrible. Why didn't you prioritize this sooner? I told you to finish them days ago. That's partner A. Partner B, I've been working heads down on the product. And who made you the arbiter of deck quality anyway? That's the argument. So what's the toilet paper? The board deck. That's the location of this argument, the operational location of the argument. But what's actually going on? What's actually going on here at the relational level? Remember, there's operation and then there's relationship. What's happening at the relational level? There's a number of things that could be going on, but just to, in the spirit of efficiency here, I'm going to identify it. I think that partner A, who says, I can't believe, she says, why didn't you prioritize this sooner? I told you to finish them this days ago. I think she's lonely. She's thinking, I thought we were in this together. She feels abandoned. That's what's going on. That's like, I call it the inner 5-year-old. I thought we were in this together. I thought we were holding hands and jumping. I couldn't reach you. I told you something was important. You ignored me. Ouch. Partner B, what's going on with partner B? You could take a minute and pause the video and guess. I'll tell you, I think what's going on with what could be going on with partner B is I feel like I just can't I can never get it right for her. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. This is pretty common with co-founders. You sign up to build a business, and a lot of times you don't even know what you're getting into. And there are an enormous number of skills you have to learn. Sales, decks, management. There are an enormous number of skills you have to learn and things you have to do that you feel overwhelmed by, or you feel inadequate to the task. You feel you don't have the competence. And like imposter syndrome, things like that. And so it's a very vulnerable place to be. That's actually what's going on. So you have this operational argument that's happening at the level of the board deck. And if you try to solve the problem at the level of the board deck, you're trying to push an agreement. When I tell you early in the week to get these slides to me, I need them by Wednesday at 8 a.m. That's the agreement. Fine. But if you just solve the problem that way, or if you just try to push the solution that way, just at the operational level, the emotional hurt, the relational stuff is still unfixed. It still persists. And so my invitation to you is to become skillful with solving conflicts on the relational level first before you solve the operational level. This is what I do with co-founders. This is what we do. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner is what's the actual emotional thing going on underneath the operational conflict? How can we get to that level, meet each other, empathize with each other at that level, repair the relationship, and then from that place, then come back and look at the operational solution. Pretty much 95% of the time, when you do that, when you repair the relationship at the relational, emotional level, the operational solution takes about 20 minutes. Piece of cake. I thought we were in this together. I felt alone. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That makes so much sense. I've been feeling really vulnerable myself because I don't feel like I even know what I'm doing. I was totally swamped this week. I saw your email. I ignored it. And I prioritized something else, but I've been nervous about even sending you these slides because I feel like I'm not even sure what to put on them. Can we talk about this and figure this out together? Okay, great. You feel that? That's different. That's a different repair than just yelling at each other about how to do this better operationally. So get there, do the relational stuff. How do you do it? How do you repair successfully? This is probably the most important slide in the whole presentation. So I invite you to take notes. And it's easier said than done, but this is the crash course. Here's how you do it. Number one, no, there are two subjective realities. People get into trouble when they talk from their subjective reality as if it is objective reality. Obviously, it's an objective truth that a board deck needs to be presented in the following manner. That's objective truth, of course. If you say that, you are making a mistake. You are mistaking your subjective truth for objective truth. It's not. You have your subjective reality, they have their subjective reality. The more your wise adult self can tolerate when your subjective reality is different from another person's subjective reality and find a bridge between the two, find a way to translate between the two. Your childish, emotionally reactive self takes your subjective reality for objective truth and judges the other person when they don't get it like you do. So carry this assumption into the conversation that you have two subjective realities and you're looking to translate between the two. All right. Number 2 is relate before fix. That's what we talked about on this slide. Okay. You have to do the relationship stuff first before you fix the operational stuff. I would say trust me, but you know what? Don't take my word for it. Try it. Try it yourself. But I think you're going to find what I found, which is that the more you just focus on the relationship first, then you do the operational stuff, things go much smoother. So when you're initiating a repair conversation, here are the things that I want you to do. Number 1, actually do initiate it. Don't delay. Don't procrastinate. Don't suppress it, compartmentalize it, eat it, pretend that things are fine. Don't enter a state of artificial harmony. Actually initiate. Stay on your side of the net. What do I mean by that? A conversation is like a tennis match. On my side of the net, I have what I see, feel, think, intend. On your side of the net, you have what you see, feel, think, intend. I get into trouble when I cross the net. For example, you obviously don't care about how we come across the board, because if you did, then you would have gotten this deck to me sooner. That's crossing the net. You obviously don't care. I'm telling you what you think and feel. If you do that, you are guaranteed to provoke a defensive reaction in the other person. Guaranteed. That's escalation, not repair. Don't do that. Stay on your side of the net. I'm seeing this when I didn't receive your slides and then I received them the day before, I got really frustrated. That's your side of the net. Okay. Something that I think you can, a phrase I love that you can use is, the story in my head is, if it's really important to you to tell the partner what you're thinking, the story in my head is that you don't care. And when I was thinking that, I got really angry with you. That's okay, because you're taking ownership and responsibility for making up the story. And here's the key, you have to be willing to be corrected. The story I made up is this. What's the actual truth? What was actually going on with you? Okay. Talk about your feelings. Don't just talk about anger. I was so angry with you. Talk about the deeper feelings. Anger is often a secondary emotion that protects sadness, fear, doubt, vulnerability, shame, things like that. I felt really scared when you didn't send me those slides. I got really nervous because this is a really important board meeting, and I panicked. I got really scared that we weren't going to make a good impression. We really need to make a good impression this Friday. I was just angry with you. Okay, try to go deeper. If you don't have emotional vocabulary, learn it. There are things called emotion wheels that you can find on the internet. Just find lists of emotion words. Emotional fluency is something I work on a lot with founders and co-founders, to be able to identify and name your inner states. If you're kind of in kindergarten on this, that's fine. It doesn't matter where you're starting, but learn the skill. Learn to identify and name your emotions. That's how you join relationally. And then state your positive needs. This is a really big one, and it's very difficult. Just want to name that out loud. We're much, much better at saying what we don't want. Don't disrespect me. Don't be late. Don't procrastinate. Okay, fine. But what do you actually want? What would it look like to be a good partner to you? Say it out loud. This is hard for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's hard sometimes to actually know what we want and what would help us feel better. And 2, here's the deeper one. It's hard to say it because it's vulnerable to say it. And because if I say it, then like the inner child part of us sometimes feels that if I say it and then you do it because I've said it, it cheapens it. What I want you to do is just be able to know what I want without me telling you. So if I tell you, it doesn't count. I want to name that's a young part of you that you need to learn how to manage on your own, and the wise adult part of you needs to learn how to say what you need in relationship. That's a mature relational skill, to be able to say what you need. Give them instructions. Set your partner up for success. What can they do that will help? What do you actually want? And don't cross the net, like we talked about. Don't be contemptuous. If you are entering a repair conversation feeling contemptuous about your partner, you obviously don't care. You don't respect me. You're just if you're making characterological judgments about your partner, that's contempt. And number one, it's emotional violence. And number two, you're not entering the repair conversation with the intention to repair. That's on you. So don't start until you're not feeling contemptuous. Take a break, go take a breather, and get yourself back to a place where your intention is to be curious about what's going on with the other person, see them as the partner that you've chosen, as a good human being, hold them in warm regard, and have the intention to actually build back your partnership. If you're on the receiving end of a conversation where someone is bringing something up to you, it's a different skill. And I'll give you some do's and don'ts here, but I just want to say the primary skill here is listening. And I think that listening is one of the most important and under-discussed skills, I think, relationally and as a leader, that you need to have. And I could do a 3-hour talk on just listening. I'm going to give you the 5-minute crash course right here. So, catch the baseball. I love this phrase. This is I got this straight from a mentor of mine named Sandy Wilder at the Educaria Unlearning Institute. And what he meant is, if someone gives you feedback and tells you that you did something that they didn't like, it's like they are throwing a baseball at you and it hits you, ouch, in the body. If you wince and react, how dare you say that about, that really hurt. If you're reacting from the pain, then you're escalating the conversation. You're not repairing it. So catch the baseball means don't let the baseball hit you in the body. Catch it. Just, okay. Catch it, take the baseball out, and then regard it with a level of emotional neutrality. You didn't get those emails to me on time, and you ignored me. Ouch. Okay, fair enough. But is it true? Take what's true in. If they're making things up, that's fine. You don't have to take it in, but actually regard it and take in what is useful. Ask questions and repeat back until they're satisfied. This is the kind of like sensei level skill where they're frustrated with you about something. Draw them out. Okay, that must have really hurt, or that must have been really frustrating. What was frustrating about that? Ask questions and then paraphrase to them what they've told you. The goal is for them to feel understood. That's your goal. The conversational checkpoint. Do not do anything else until you've hit this conversational checkpoint. They feel that you understand exactly their position. If you are trying to persuade them of your position, well, I was busy. I was working on the product. If you do that before you have repeated back until they're satisfied and they feel understood, it's any escalation in the conversation is your fault. Don't persuade them until you have reached a point of understanding. That's huge. Focus on their experience or the facts. If you think that you did respond, or sometimes I see people getting into squabbles about like, I sent you an email on Wednesday night and I didn't hear back until Friday. No, you didn't send me the email on Wednesday. You got sent me on Thursday morning. No, it was Wednesday night. No, it's Thursday morning. Okay. Doesn't matter. Who cares? The experience that the person had was she felt abandoned. She felt you ignored her. That's the important piece. Focus on that. Okay? Affirm their feelings with empathy. This is huge. Don't just say, okay, you felt abandoned. Okay. Got it. Yeah, you felt ignored by me. Okay. If you say that with that tone, you're wrong. It's bad. You want to say it with an empathic reaction. Okay, I get it. I know what it feels like to feel ignored. That doesn't feel good. I know. So you felt ignored. Okay, I see why that was hard. A sentence you can say is, that makes sense. It makes sense to me that you felt that way because ... and then fill in the blank. Say it with a tone of empathy and mean it. Remember, this is your partner. Don't be contemptuous of them. And finally, take responsibility. Even a micron of responsibility helps. Dynamics are always two ways. Always two ways. There's always something that you can say that will diffuse the tension by taking responsibility diffuses tension. That's what you want. Your goal in a repair conversation is to diffuse tension and repair. Don't take responsibility for something you don't feel like you did, but there are things. For example, maybe she did send you an email on Wednesday and you didn't respond until Friday. Maybe you had your reasons. That's fine. You had your reasons. But take responsibility. You're right. I didn't respond to you, and I can see how that was hurtful. Step further. I see how I have a pattern of getting into my own world and trying to be productive on my own terms and accomplishing my own tasks. And sometimes I prioritize that over our relationship. And so I understand how that was hurtful to you. That's something I'm willing to work on. That'd be great. And say what you can do. Once you've diffused the tension, you've connected, each of you feels heard and understood. Great. That's the conversational checkpoint, after which you can start moving into coming up with an operational agreement about what you're going to do next. And so say it. They've asked, ideally, they've stated their positive needs. Say what you can do. They want you to respond within 24 hours. Okay, can you do that? Great. Say it. Now you're reaching an agreement. Don't interrupt. When someone is sharing, God, this is the worst. Don't interrupt. Do not interrupt. Oh my God. Different people have different tolerances for how much another person can say to them before they well up with the inner pressure of needing to respond. If you're like that, you need to work on that. I'm telling you, you need to work on that. Here's how you do it. When someone's speaking to you, take a pad of paper, take notes, write down what you'd like to say, put it aside, and then continue hearing them. This is a skill. You have to learn this. This is a really important relational skill. Don't interrupt. Here's the only exception to the rule. You're allowed to interrupt if the other person is conversationally dispersive and has a problem containing themselves. Maybe they're talking for 5 minutes at a time and you just are having a hard time following. You can interrupt to ask for clarity or to refocus them. Here's how it sounds. Hey, listen, I really want to, I think I'm tracking you. This is what I think you're saying. I really just want to make sure that I'm following and I'm getting a little lost. Can you clarify this? That's okay. You can interrupt for that. That's okay. But don't interrupt to respond to their points. Listen to understand. Listen to understand. Don't just listen to respond. Don't get defensive. Defensive sounds like, here's what defensiveness sounds like. First, defensiveness is anything other than taking responsibility, first of all, and listening to understand. But here's what defensiveness sounds like. You didn't respond to my email until Friday, and that made me really frustrated. Well, you didn't send me an email until Wednesday morning, and you should have sent it on Monday. That's defensiveness. You're defending yourself. You're defending your ego. It hurts. You didn't catch the baseball. You're protecting yourself by diverting blame. That's one style of defensiveness. There's a number of different styles of defensiveness, but defensiveness is anything that is trying to protect you and your emotions from the pain of receiving what the other person is saying. That's defensiveness. The Gottmans, who I mentioned before, the legendary couples research-based couples counselors, have this framework of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It's the 4 predictors of divorce, and one of them is defensiveness. One of them is contempt, by the way, which we talked about, but defensiveness is a really big one. It's a very big one that I see very often. And finally, like I said, don't haggle about what really happened. It doesn't matter. You're trying to get into the emotional reality before you get to the operational reality. Get to the emotional reality first, okay? Just get there. If you can get there, that's a major win. And then it's not necessary, actually, to diagnose accurately and to get on the same page. You sent the email on Wednesday. No, you sent it on Thursday. I mean, in a case like that, there's obviously a record, but who cares? The point is, not to haggle about what really happened, but to set yourself up for the future of a successful navigation of a similar problem. What are your agreements moving forward? Okay. So that's it. That's your crash course, how to repair successfully. Boom. The outputs of a successful repair are nothing is left unsaid. Everyone feels fully expressed. It feels good between you. You actually restore a feeling of a positive mutuality between you. That's great. You're back to harmony. And you have an explicit agreement about what you're going to do moving forward. 1, 2, 3. Those are the outputs of a successful repair. Now, one thing I want to say is that, okay, I get a couple questions. Sometimes I get the question that if I'm initiating a conversation, the other person gets defensive and starts telling me about their point of view, here's the Tai Chi sensei move that you need to make. Reverse roles. You initiated, you're bringing something up, and they respond, well, you should have sent something to me on Monday, and I'm feeling totally overwhelmed. Now you're the listener. Now they're initiating with you. Okay, fine. Listen, receive, catch the baseball. Repeat back until they feel understood. Diffuse them. Only then bring back up what you want to bring up. Okay, so that's your sensei Tai Chi move. The other thing I want to say is that sometimes repair conversations don't go well because one of you is feeling reactive or emotional and just can't access your wisest self in that conversation, and that's okay. That's part of relationships. This is an aspiration. I'd love for you guys to get both really skillful with this over time so that doesn't happen. But in the meantime, what I want you to do is take responsibility for your side of the relationship. As long as you have acted responsibly in a repair conversation, if you've done everything you can, you initiated, you caught the baseball, you tried to understand them. If they're being reactive, they're just having a bad day, that's okay. It is on you now to manage and soothe yourself from the disappointment. Does that make sense? So part of being an adult and being in a healthy, mature relationship is having the skills to self-soothe when you're disappointed because you didn't get what you want from your relationship. Terry Real is a legendary couples counselor, and he makes the point, I love this point, that start making the distinction between a micro disappointment and a macro disappointment. And really, really be clear about the distinction. A micro disappointment is that this Thursday, my partner didn't email me back, and that was frustrating. What happens and where we get in trouble is we expand that to a macro level disappointment. My partner always ignores me, always abandons me, never comes through. Always, always, never. When you get to that extreme state, then you're reacting from a more childish inner part of you. And so step back, see it objectively. This was a disappointment at 3 p.m. this Thursday. It is not a macro dynamic of always and never. And of course, the final nuance to that is that if it is a consistent problem, then that's a place where you might want to reach out for a coach to actually work through it, or to bring it up again later. Bring it up again later and come up with explicit agreements, and then set a bar of performance that you both can agree to, and then move from there. Again, if you're really entrenched in a conflict and you can't work through it, then reach out for a coach. That's where they can be helpful. All right, finally, we come to pillar number 3, which is friendship. And like I mentioned, friendship is the most idealistic of the 3 pillars. But I think it's really important because, again, I'm trying to set you up for a great co-founder relationship, not a mediocre one. And I think you should be friends. I think you should. I think you should aspire for it. So I want to talk about the importance of being known. There's a deep human need we all have to feel known by other people. We all have rich, deep, textured inner worlds. And when other people know us, it makes us feel good and valued and seen and appreciated and loved. It's a deep human need. It's possible to feel lonely in the physical presence of other people. Why? Because if we don't feel known, then we feel lonely. Loneliness, the cure for loneliness is not just physical proximity to others. It's an emotional attunement. So the importance of being known. This is really big. I want you to get to know your co-founder. Really get to know them. What's important to them? What's in their inner world? I also want to talk about Aristotle's 3 tiers of friendship. I love this. Aristotle, you might not know this, talked a lot about friendship. He wrote about friendship as one of the highest virtues that you can have as a human being. And he established 3 tiers of friendship. There's the tier of utility, the tier of pleasure, and the tier of virtue. So we'll talk about them. Tier 1, the tier of utility. These friends help each other accomplish things in life. A lot of co-founders have friendships of utility. We're building a business together. It's an operationship. We help each other accomplish tasks. Great. That is the accomplishment side of life. Tier 2 is pleasure. This is a deeper, and this one encompasses utility, but it's a deeper one. We help each other enjoy life. We like each other's company. We can, for example, go on a hiking trip together, or play sports together, or talk about our dating lives. And we enjoy life more because of each other's company. And the third tier is the tier of virtue. This is the deepest level of friendship. It's we help each other become who we are capable of being. This is a soul level friendship. This is a friendship where we really see and understand each other in our essence, in our potential. We feel seen by the other, and we see the other. This is a friend that you go to be who you are meant to be in this lifetime. I invite you to cultivate a friendship with your co-founder at this level. I recommend it. I think it will do you some good. How do you do it? Well, there are 3 types of conversation. This is not well understood in our culture, but there is a brilliant linguist named Fernando Flores, who basically his point is that conversation typically falls into 3 different buckets. There are 3 different types of conversation. The first type of conversation is one that explores possibilities. What if we did this? It's imagination land, brainstorming. The second type of conversation is a coordinating action. You're going to do this. I'm going to do this. Let's come back. When we circle back, we'll say, did you accomplish this? Great. The third type of conversation is building relational depth. Typically, in the world of business, all conversations are in categories 1 and 2. We explore possibilities, we brainstorm, we strategize, and then we coordinate action. We set OKRs and we follow up. Did you accomplish what you were set to accomplish? It's amazing that we don't have the third type of conversation. Building relational depth. What does that mean? Asking about the other person, exploring their inner world. How are you doing today? Not just how was your weekend, but you just had a baby. Oh my God, that's incredible. What's it like for you to be a father? We just hired a new employee. How are you experiencing growing as a leader? That is building relational depth. Asking questions and that invite the other person to plumb the depths of their inner world and share them with you. And back and forth. That's building relational depth. We don't really do that in business, but it's really important for any relationship. So learn about each other. I really recommend this. Learn about each other. Understand your partner's history. What were they like as a kid? What was it like growing up? What was their family culture? What were they like in high school? What was important to them? What was it like for them to be in college? How did they become the person that they are today? How did their history shape them? It's amazing how many co-founders don't really know that about each other. What's the personal meaning of the business to your co-founder? What is the business to them? What do they want in their lives? What's their end game? Why do they choose to be a founder? How does the business fit into their life vision? What kind of life do they want? How does the business fit into it? That's the personal meaning of the business. Figure that out about your co-founder. When you know that about your co-founder, then when you're building your business, then you can have the sense that you're also contributing to their lives. That's nice. That's a sense of goodwill. That's like a good heart. That's feeding the heart of your relationship. This is a big one. This is one I got from the Gottmans. Ask questions and remember the answers. Do the second part. Don't just ask questions and don't remember the answers. That's, in a way, it's almost worse because you teased the possibility that you were interested in them and then you took it away. Ask questions and actually be interested. Remember the answers. What do they care about? How do they feel and think? What fears and desires do they have? How did they become the person they are today? Who are they becoming now? Carve out time for this. Carve out time where you actually ask questions that go deeper than just how are you doing and how was your weekend? And something that can be really useful is personality typing and debriefing. I personally have studied a framework called the Enneagram for over 12 years. I am pretty loyal to it. And I think it's a great framework. There's one of the downsides of it is that it takes a lot more upfront investment to learn the framework than others, but I think it's very rich and useful. But zooming out, my point is that doing a personality typing and debriefing it can be really useful because personality typing systems give you a shared framework and language to explore and map each other's inner worlds. Part of knowing another person is knowing what's important to them, what their triggers are, what their fears and drives are. That can be done through personality typing debriefing as well. It's great tool. And you can do workshops with facilitators. In fact, I do workshops where I teach the Enneagram to business teams, and so we can talk about that if you want. All right, what do? You got the 3 pillars of a great co-founder relationship: shared vision, conflict resolution, and friendship. What do you do to actually implement them? Here is my healthy co-founder operating system. It's pretty simple. Here's what I think you should do. Have co-founder dates. Once a month is fine. Maybe in the early days, a little higher frequency is better. But once a month, about 60 minutes, go to dinner together, or if you're remote, share a Zoom meeting and actually ask each other questions, map each other's inner worlds, and keep exploring. I put keep exploring here because I want you to understand that mapping someone else's inner world is not a one and done task. People are mysteries and they unfold over time. People change, people evolve. And so what your partner values now is going to be different in 5 years. And so keep exploring. How are they changing as a person? How are you changing as a person? How are you guys changing together? So do that. Map and update the shared vision also. What does the business mean to you now? How is it different than when we started the business 3 years ago? What are you wanting out of the business now? Keep that conversation going. So that's the point of co-founder dates. Carve out time for those building relational depth type of conversations. It might feel awkward at first. That's okay. The reason it feels awkward is because a lot of us aren't used to this because we didn't grow up with these types of conversations in our families. We're not used to it. It's a new muscle. I guarantee you that growing this muscle will be good for you as a person and for your business. Number 2, practice healthy repair as needed. When things happen and you feel frustrated and there are ruptures, surface the issue and schedule time to debrief it. Sometimes you can work it out right on the fly, but if you can't, I get it. You're running a business. You're busy. Something happens on a Monday. You've got a conference Tuesday through Thursday. You're not going to have time to talk until Friday. Pick up the phone or shoot your partner a text and say, hey, something happened. I want to talk about it. Do you have time Friday? Can we get 30 minutes? Schedule it. That's healthy conflict management. And then in the intervening time between Monday and Friday, when you're going to have that meeting, keep showing up as your best self. Don't let it derail you emotionally. Self-soothe in the meantime. And then bring it up on Friday with, remember, no contempt, with the intention to repair and actually do it. Okay. And then the other thing I want to say is I want to double click on this point, expand your emotional fluency, be able to identify what you're feeling and share it with your partner and help them be able to identify what they're feeling too. Expand your emotional fluency. Number 3, establish a healthy ongoing feedback culture. Do not wait for an official performance review. A lot of times what happens is, in the early days, people sometimes just don't get feedback at all, or they wait until they're scaled enough to have an official performance review process, and that's when they give each other feedback. Don't do that. Give each other feedback in real time, ongoing, throughout the week, throughout the day, and have it be both positive and negative. Give positive feedback and mean it. This is a skill that is really vulnerable for a lot of people. It's amazing how vulnerable it is to say something you really admire about someone to their face. But I recommend you learn how to do this. For example, I am amazed at how you've been growing as a leader. The way you led that last meeting was really inspiring. It was super organized, and afterwards I felt so much better about our direction, and it's so cool to see you grow. Say that. Say it out loud. man, the product is in such a better state than it was last week. It's amazing how fast you are at resolving those kinds of issues. I love your vision for the product. I love working with you because of how responsible you are and how much of a visionary you are. Say that. Don't hold it in. Say it. Really, it's meaningful. That's really, really powerful stuff. And then give constructive feedback. That can happen in the context of a repair conversation, or it can just happen if your partner submits work that you don't think is very good and you've got shared standards for it. Let them know. It's all right. Let them know. Don't walk on eggshells. Let them know. Hey, I don't think this was as good. This wasn't your best work. Say it. This wasn't your best work, or this wasn't your best pitch. Here's what I think you could have done better. Establish that culture. Give each other permission to give each other that feedback. Okay? And remember, if you're doing a repair conversation, ask for what you need specifically. Ask for what you need. Don't just tell them what you don't want. Okay? And get a coach if needed. Get a coach. That's what it's for. You need a coach if you're walking on eggshells and you can't figure it out. Your relational dysfunction is becoming a business risk. You're not able to talk through goals and strategy without it derailing into relational problems. You're at each other's throat. If your relational dysfunction has bled into the organization and people are losing faith in you as leaders, if people can tell, if people are having side conversations, and of any of the shared pillars, shared vision, conflict resolution, or friendship, if you've got questions and you don't trust yourself to do those conversations on your own, reach out, get a coach. That's what they're there for. That's what I love to do. Okay, I want to give you a few resources. I will put the link to this deck. You'll be able to access it in the notes of this video, and I will update this resource list over time. But I want to just say this is a very brief resource list. These are places to get started. There's a lot of great stuff out there. Reach out if you want more, but these are some that I recommend. And just want to say thank you. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for wanting to build a better co-founder relationship with your partner. It is good for business and I think also good for the world. So thanks. Reach out. I'd love to meet you and know what you and your co-founder are up to. And until next time, see ya.